Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Glam Reaper podcast. On today's episode, I'm talking to a fellow Irish woman who is also obsessed with pets and pet loss and grief. And so the two of us have a chat. Let's take it away. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Glam Reaper podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Muldowney, aka the Glam Reaper. On today's guest, on today's show, we have Louise, who is a fellow Irish woman, although controversially she is from Clare but living in Cork. So we'll have to delve into that a little bit more. But welcome, Louise.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. So tell the listeners what exactly it is that you do and why you're on the Glam Reaper podcast.
No bother. So in a nutshell, I help grieving people deal with grief and loss. So I am fully certified in grief and loss, and also I'm specialising in pet loss. So I have, from my own experience in Ireland, I experienced losing both of my dogs within 24 hours of each other back in 2019. So obviously that was devastating for me. So I searched for like specific pet loss support, in my own country, and I couldn't really find anything. So obviously there's therapy, and that's excellent. And I did. And I thought that I got great benefit from that. But I was kind of looking for something a little bit more specific, Jennifer, you know what I mean? I was still kind of searching for that. So I stumbled across the grief recovery method. It's actually based in Ohio in the US. So I did my full certification and training with them online last year. And I have been having clients since around the end of last year. So I am on a mission to try and spread awareness, pet loss awareness in Ireland, but I can work with clients worldwide, which is incredible. So that is in a nutshell anyway.
But the benefits of COVID, especially, I think, really opened the world up to, that everyone can work from home and sort of still help each other out and still gather together as a community. And well, obviously, what you do hits home with me for sure. My TED Talk even was specifically about pet loss and sort of the judgment of that and what I felt when we lost Roxy, which it's so many years ago, but it's still like I can't listen to the Rainbow Bridge poem and I kind of can't even think of, the time where we had to stand there and she had to let us go. It still upsets me. So I'm not even going to talk about it right now but it's interesting. I mean, ever since then, I've had a cremation jewelry line, it's the same jewelry, but we've it for pets, Rainbow Bridge Memorials, and then we have it for humans, Farewell Celtic Ashes. And what's interesting to me, and I've said this on, I think it was on the Elaine show, but I've said it several times, is that they ask, well, which is the most popular? And I said, well, interestingly, in Ireland, it's the pets. So we clearly value our pets more than we value our grannies. But listen, it is such a huge thing, I think. And there is a little bit of, I don't think it's specifically Ireland. I think there is a bit of judgment. Like if you don't have a pet or you're not sort of into pets, it can be a bit sort of, oh, it's just a dog or it's just a goldfish or it's just a whatever. And it's not. Like Roxy I grew up with her. She was like, we got her when I think I was like 12 or something, or 11. I mean, she literally went through all the horrors of a female teenage girl growing up in Ireland. Like, the unconditional, exactly, and the unconditional love, I mean, I joke about, I could have told her I was Hitler and she still would have been like, okay, I love you. I mean, it's wild. So to then go through the loss of that unconditional love and for there to be no support system, like as I've said, I have a cremation jewelry now, but the amount of times I get emails and phone calls looking for support or just somebody to talk to. And I'd spend hours on the phone, especially at the beginning, where people just wanted to vent and just wanted to speak to somebody who kind of understood.
They totally, because people, it's almost like with the vet care, your pet is euthanized, or it passes away, and then there's the cremation business, which is already there. But I just feel like there is that one thing missing, for the actual human that's suffering with the emotional pain,
Yeah.
and that's really, really intense. And I don't know. Obviously, there are some vets that are, really kind and sending sympathy cards and so on. So I think just offering this kind of support is just incredible. So when I say that I offer support, it's the programs that I offer are educational based, but they have huge therapeutic benefits. So people are learning about grief and learning about the facts and misinformation about grief. And then, I do this in a support group format or an individual. So they have the choice, whatever they're comfortable with. And they can learn how to process this unresolved grief, within the safe environment while they're learning as well. So it's right, really quite incredible and quite different to talk therapy as we would traditionally kind of go towards. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's so important. I mean, I think everybody needs to sort of talk to somebody and go through certain things. And I do think that pet specific is so important, because it is a little bit different, because we don't really, and it's something I'd kind of like to change, we don't really do funerals for pets. And so therefore there's kind of a link missing. Like, I remember my friends kind of didn't really know what to do with me, because it's like, do you send flowers? Do you send condolence cards? I mean, I don't know. And I understand that, we probably all felt it. And even when it came down to the cremation thing, I couldn't kind of comprehend that you were offered like group cremation or single cremation. I'm like, what? Like, you'd never offer that for a human, and yeah, it's fascinating. And so it was the loss of your two dogs within 24 hours that got you into this really specifically. And what happened with the 24 hours? Jesus.
yeah, so back in October 2019, I just came home on my lunch, and my older dog was lying dead in the back garden. And unfortunately, my other dog had injuries. She had to be put to sleep the following day. So it was a shock, and I didn't get to prepare. I didn't ever tell myself, I'm going to be losing these dogs. And so I didn't really ever think about what my life would be like afterwards. So there was the initial shock, and then there was the confusion and the grief, and really not being understood or not being heard, and having to bury that kind of grief as us Irish do so well. We just bury it, and then chronic distractions, we use those. So that went on and on for several months until I stumbled across the grief recovery method, where I trained and got huge benefits from doing the program myself, which then inspired me to become a grief recovery specialist. So yeah.
And how has business been? Has it been good? And do you specialize in pets, but you also work with humans? Or
yes, yeah. So
you're always working with humans, but
exactly, yeah. No, I'm specializing with the pet loss due to my own personal experience, but I have helped people, processing grief with human loss as well. So the program is interchangeable, it works. And a lot of the time somebody will say, I want to work through this pet loss. And then, after we've completed the program together, they might contact me and say, I've lost a family member, even if it was a long time ago, could I work on that? And perfectly fine, like, there's no issue. So really, it opens the book for someone to understand that they may have patterns that they've carried through to their life from their grief, because grief is a normal and natural reaction to change or loss of any kind, not just death. Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly what I said in my TED talk. That's exactly right. It's, it can be so it can be the loss of my dog could be overwhelming and most horrific thing that ever happens to me in my life. It could be the loss of a job or a divorce for somebody else. Like it's not for, I mean, the amount of divorcees I've spoken to said they wish they wish he or she was dead because it would have been easier, which is wild. But it's, nobody gets to judge what you're grieving or what you're going through, and that really really irritates me when I kind of hear that. And so, okay, so you started on this journey. I tell maybe some of the listeners who might be interested in this grief recovery course that you did in Ohio, like, I don't know, pricing or how long it took you or what entailed, and did you have to have anything done before you went into it? Or
So it probably took in and around the space of 4 to 5 months, with online kind of live trainings with the trainers. So some trainers will be based in the UK and some in the US. And then there's a lot of, work to do, like book work and, that kind of paperwork and studying in the downtime of the live trainings. So it was quite intense, but it was all done in group kind of setting. And it was just lovely because everybody was there for a reason and we all shared our stories and we all felt inspired by each other. So it really
it was probably some form of grief therapy in and of itself, I'd say.
Oh, totally. Because you're actually doing the program while you're training. So it's kind of intertwined and you're getting to work on your own losses. So you're going to experience what the clients are going to experience. So it was brilliant. It was really, really, it was just so motivating and inspiring. So excellent. Like, so if anybody wanted to check it out, it's thegriefrecoverymethod.com. You can sign up to do the trainings on that website. Yeah.
And do you, how are you finding, so your clients, how are you finding Irish versus international? Are the Irish, because I know from starting 15 years ago, it's like blood from a stone. It's like, come on, come on. How are you finding, and it's always cracks me up, by the way, when I'm abroad and people sort of say, oh, the Irish are great at dealing with death. And I'm like, okay, we're great at funerals, we're great at wakes, we're great at doing that, but we are not good at talking about things in general. We're not good at talk, the gift of the gab, and we'll talk shite for ages, but we won't actually ever address, like, whether it's emotions or, death. I mean, anyway. So how are you finding, the Irish versus everyone else?
There is definitely an obvious difference, I would say. But I find, obviously with the international and people in the US, like they are easy to open up and to tell their stories. But with the Irish, they kind of feel like they need to warm up a little bit, or to trust the environment that they're in, the people that they're kind of with and stuff. So, but one major thing that has helped is I share my story. So it helps them then to feel safe enough and to trust me and everybody else to share theirs. So I think that's a huge benefit. Whereas if I was kind of sitting there facilitating and really not sharing anything, it will be another story. So
yeah, no, I understand. That makes sense. Well, listen, amazing stuff, and I think very, very much needed. And we would love to share, obviously, we're going to share this podcast, but we share your information below if people want to reach out to you in specifics and talk about it. And it doesn't have to be pet loss, but that's kind of where you're gearing towards, which is amazing. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on and for sharing your story, and we wish you the very best, and hopefully we'll get you on another year from now, and maybe you'll be, headlining some international stages talking about it, because I think it's so important.
Oh, definitely.
Really. So keep up the good work.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I had a good time. Thanks.
So that was our episode with Louise, who was live from Cork in Ireland, and we were talking about pet loss, which I know is a serious subject for a lot of you guys. So let us know your thoughts on glamreaperpodcast@gmail.com. That's glamreaperpodcast@gmail.com. and hopefully we can do some more pet focused episodes in the future. Ciao for now.